Welcome, everybody, to our fourth and final week. All good things must come to an end. Well, actually, this isn't coming to an end, it's really just starting. It's the end of the book study, but there are lots of great suggestions mentioned in the next steps, and we're going to talk about those here over the next couple of minutes, as well as the flipped classroom model. So maybe you haven't been able to join us all along the whole way. Don't feel guilty. There's a lot of things going on in everybody's lives, but I would like you to at least tune in, jump into that discussion board, at least question 13, and take a look at some of the next steps that have been offered up. And there will be some action steps that we'll be following up on as we go through the rest of this year and into next year. So let's jump into the flipped classroom model. There were lots of positive comments about the flipped model and how that could look throughout our buildings. And Karen mentioned a few of them here, and they were echoed by others as well, just how it allows students to work at their own pace and place. She also mentioned the fact that it's really nice for parents to be able to view these videos as well. We have a place to store all this stuff now with Schoology and Seesaw, and so we have the right tools in place to make this happen. The challenges around this were a lot of people mentioning the time that it takes for teachers to be able to put these things together. And many people in discussion talked about how to overcome some of those challenges. I think Karen here talked about, can teachers work collaboratively together? If we need a video on how to do two-digit multiplication, maybe there's one that already exists, or there's other teachers in our system that have created them. So really working collaboratively to create that collection of videos. Ryan in his post talked about how at Rogers they have at least one teacher that is having kids make the videos. And I think there's certainly some merit in doing that. So those are just a couple of the ideas that came up around sort of advantages and disadvantages of flipped classroom model. There were other discussions brought up. Jody and Paul also talked about this idea that, you know what, the videos don't always have to be watched at home. If we take a look at that station rotation model, these videos could be watched right in the classroom. There could be a group working and watching some of those videos and doing some independent work while the teacher is working with other groups of students in the classroom. So there's a lot of ways. Flip model is just one model, but even within that flip model, there are many different ways to approach it. And Tony talked about just some good best practices. I encourage you to jump in and take a look at Tony's post here. He talked about, making sure the videos are short and sweet, high energy. There are some best practices to follow in terms of doing flip video. And if it's not done right and well, it actually isn't very, very helpful or productive at all. And so those are some things that we need to think about as we move forward with this model, and making sure that we provide our teachers with the proper staff development in order to deliver these videos in their classroom. So those are great tips. Those are some of the big ideas. Other people went into other detail in terms of how they might manage the flip model in their setting. Okay, the big piece here is really next steps. We've spent 4 weeks here reading and developing a common language around this. And there are several people that said, I want to set a goal just for myself personally, that I want to learn more about this or try some things in practice. And Sarah and Jana here talked about just trying to use it with the staff that they work with in terms of meetings or professional development to use with staff. What are some things that could be done electronically or put into a discussion board to get feedback? And then when we meet face to face, we can have different conversations. Jenna also talked about trying to work this into our strategic plan, so it really isn't just one more thing. We really want to make sure it connects well with our world's best workforce. And based off all the conversations that have been in this group, we certainly see that connection with world's best workforce and those practical skills that kids need when they move beyond our K-12 system. Paul in his post, I just took a snip of it here, but he really laid out some very specific steps that I think we need to pay attention to as we move forward as a system and bring in a sort of a cohort group of district system leaders together to plan next steps for this. And that probably is a next step for me, is to sort of tap on a few shoulders here. And I think I have some leaders in this book study that are willing to help us go forward with some of those next steps. So I may be sending a few of you an email or a phone call, but if you're interested, please call or drop me an email, and we can start having more conversations about how to sort of pull that together collectively as a system. Other next steps, Mark and Jody again talked about how they're going to use this in their particular settings. Mark talks about how it's a great opportunity with the one-to-one initiative to really start to build some of this into the training for teachers that are going to be one-to-one next year at the middle school. And then Jody talked about how she's thinking of using it with the EBD teachers in terms of maybe doing Google Hangouts, or even in the special ed training sessions where they can maybe do some station rotation in that professional development with their teachers. So I'm very impressed with the comments. I think we are all sort of at least have an idea of what the models are now and how it could look. We just need to work through where to start with that as we move forward to next year. The digital learning team is talking about doing some cohort trainings next year with different teachers, and we may be asking for other feedback as we move forward with that particular planning. So thank you very much for all the time that you put into this. Even though that we are at the end of the book study here, you certainly can go into that book study discussion board in that principal's Schoology group and read through any of the discussion questions that have been posted there. So thanks again. Have a great week.